Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Nuke coming at you with another episode of Day Trading with Nuke. This is going to be the pre-market watch list for December 3rd, Monday. Got a lot of action going on in the stock market. Got a lot of action going on in the news. Lots of uncertainty. That's going to make for a whole hell of a lot of movement all around. So, without further ado, we're going to jump right into this. And today, guys, there is going to be no video of me to accompany this. So, hopefully this comes out clearly. Otherwise, I'm sorry, I apologize in advance, but we're moving forward with it. First up on our list is going to be Apple, and Apple had taken a nosedive with the rest of the tech stocks on the longer term trend, and it's seen a nice little cover pop here recently. It had a pullback on Thursday and Friday, and then it gapped up this morning. What that's looking at for me is we have a descending triangle here, and it's wedging between the open of the morning and this resistance line. All said, what I'm expecting out of Apple is to eventually fall below this pre-market resistance, trying to fill the gap up and staying above this pre-market support. In the event that it breaks out of that, I don't expect it to go above 193 on the high side or drop down below 170 on the low side. Actually, on the low side, I would say 178 would be more realistic. But expect to see that wedging action if it can't break above this resistance line. BABA, and I'm going to roll through these fast because I got about 7 of them for you. BABA, like all the other big industrials lately, has been falling off the map, caught a nice cover pop, and then as you can see, it's been Elliott waving on its way up, and then this morning it had this really huge gap up of about $7 or $8, which for BABA, that's a hell of a gap. You can see the pre-market support lines down here, but what's even more interesting is it's one of the few stocks that as it's progressing through the morning, it's having a, it keeps setting in higher lows. I'm sorry, I didn't put that to the proper color there. So it's forming a very short-term support line towards the upside. Pre-market open was at 167. I do expect to see some resistance, pretty heavy resistance around the 170.33. See that price bounce back and forth in here, and then if it breaks below that support, expect to see it drop all the way down to the 167. If it breaks out, maybe it'll have the guts to get up to 178, but that's going to be a hell of a pop. Just depends on how much interest is behind it this morning. All right, NVDA. NVDA had the gap up from about 163 to 173, about a $10 gap, and it's slowly been wedging its way back down. Our pre-market support from the other day puts it right around here. When NVIDIA broke open this morning, it was 169.49, so we've got a really nice wide open wedge. This thing is really anybody's guess. It could break above, it could break below. I don't expect to see right out of the gate price action jumping up more than the pre-market high, which is 173, or the pre-market low, which is 162. I'm more inclined to think this thing is going to fill the gap, but the telltale sign is going to be if it holds this support line and then breaks to the upside. Otherwise, we'll look at it real quick on the longer term trend, and you can see here how it just basically gapped up out of almost nowhere from that cover pop we were experiencing last week. Well, I guess it don't want to get rid of that drawing. All right. Netflix, next up. Longer term trend for the support line. Netflix gapped up from around the 285 up to around the 297. A little over a $10 split, almost 12. And what are we looking at here? With Netflix, it's been holding this wedge down, but as of lately, it's broken up above. I don't expect that's going to continue. I expect to see it come back down towards the pre-market open, which was 292, and fill in this gap here. If it manages to hold this or break above this resistance, retest of the 298, 300, that's going to be a hell of a resistance, guys. And you can see where we're meeting heavy resistance up here on the 4-hour chart or the daily chart, whichever one, you know, they're going to give you the same info. But we have been showing great progress. We also are well extended off of the 9. So I expect at some point this is going to break down below and retest this support for today. Next up, Facebook. Facebook, same thing. Hell of a gap up, steady decline down. I see this thing wedging. Facebook is one of those ones that I expect to see catch a little bit of wind, come back and retest this morning open of 143.90. I don't expect if it breaks out above that to get above the pre-market high of 145. I do expect that's going to kind of peter around down in there, but I also don't expect to see anything lower than 140. So just watch for that whenever it decides to change direction, guys. We'll look at it on the longer term trend, and you can see this is where she opened at. And we've got a lot of resistance and support up here too, right? But there's, you know, you got a lot of room to travel before you get a whole lot of, you know, solid support and resistance up above. Plus we have the 200 EMA sitting here at the 146, which is just above where we open. So I'm more inclined to think this thing's going to bounce on down a little further. It's all going to depend on how the market goes today. Tesla makes its own wind, or its own weather, guys. And from the market open to our longer term support and our shorter term resistance, you can see that that daily open was just about center punching it like an arrowhead. So I expect to see this thing sandwich back down in this gap to 356. In the event Tesla just wants to break out and run, retest of the 365 to the high side if it breaks this resistance line. Last but not least, we're going to cover AMD. AMD gap up like all the big boys from 21 to 22 and a half. Yeah, but for AMD, that's a pretty good sizable move, guys. And what I see is it holding this current resistance line. And if it can manage to wedge on down, I expect to see some major resistance here at this older support line. It did open the day at 2182. And if we look at this on the 4-hour chart, we can see that we're well above the 200, and the 200 is slightly above this 2182. So I expect to see this thing come down and retest this and actually take off, go a little bit to the high side. Just my opinion. Maybe it happens, maybe it don't. But on the 4-hour chart, you can see we are kind of extended. This 200 forming the top of an ascending triangle, and this could be the breakout, guys. So AMD might be the devil darling that takes off. Just be careful, because she does do you dirty, and she's not afraid to do it in public. So if you get into an AMD trade, watch your size and do not get on the wrong side of her. She can be cruel. That's all I got for you guys. 8 minutes and I am done. I am out of here, and I'm going to get this thing out to you. See you this afternoon with a daily recap. And as always, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave me some details below or in the comments section. Tell me what you think, and I will see you later.